Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another
Oladipo!
one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked on by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat. Coming to you here on this Monday. Charlie Miller with us, the great Don Fischer as well. I hope you had a great weekend, and it is a great start to the week. Charlie, how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. How you guys doing?
Great. Don Fischer here as well, of course. A lot better Monday to start, Don, this week than last week.
Yeah, there's no question about that. A much better Sunday after a Saturday football game than we saw a week before.
Yeah, and we all know that the team that Indiana was playing was a lower level team, but you've got to be happy with what you saw on defense and special teams because, man, they were like a Tasmanian devil from the word go, and they didn't stop. It was amazing to watch just an onslaught that they just kept coming on that side of the ball.
Well, there's no question. I think the biggest takeaway from this ball game from Indiana's perspective was the special team success. I mean, you had 2 block punts. You had a punt return for a touchdown of 81 yards. You had another return from Jacoby Hewitt that was called back because of a penalty that would have been spectacular. Honestly, the special teams in this game probably did more to enhance Indiana's confidence level than anybody else in this ball club on Saturday. And I was really excited to see that because you don't normally see that kind of big play specialties, especially from Indiana over the years. It's the first time we've had, a block punt for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown since 1969. So it's been a while since we saw that.
Don Fischer was not even on the call the last time this happened, so that tells you how long ago it happened. It was forever ago, yeah. Charlie Miller, you know, special teams are just one of those things. You need everybody contributing, and when you get that, it's hard to not have success.
Well, for me, when I think about football, special teams can help you. It release that pressure, right? That's pressure from offense that does not have to get first downs, pressure from defense. Defense can get rest, right? And all of a sudden now, you expand that field. So just imagine, and then looking at the score, 53 points, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. And looking at that Memorial Stadium, it was rocking.
The student section especially, man.
That was pretty impressive.
Don, the students have to get just a gigantic – I don't recall the student section – they've been pretty good the year before, season before last when they were allowed to come, but they were just early, and it was as filled as I think I've seen it from a student perspective. They were in their seats and they're early, man, and they were loaded up.
Well, the school sold 12,000 season tickets to students this year. And I think every one of the 12,000 showed up on Saturday because it was spectacular. And it's the best opening day Indiana crowd. And I say that because Ohio State always brings a bunch of people when they come, and it always looks like it's full, but it's not full of Indiana people. Right. This game was full of Indiana people. You know that Idaho didn't bring hardly anybody. So this was a great crowd, a great opening day crowd. I pray that we can continue to see that throughout the season. We're going to see it this week when Cincinnati comes to town because it's already been a long time ago it was announced as a sellout. So that part of it is tremendous. There's no question about that. From my perspective, and I've been doing Indiana games for a long time, it was the best opening day crowd I can remember in years and years and years.
And that's got to be great to parlay that into this week for the Cincinnati game, a gigantic game coming up. But to have that kind of a game with the first home crowd and to give them that kind of a taste, that's got to bring them back, I would imagine, wanting more.
I would think so. If it doesn't, I don't know what you're looking for. And here's the other thing. And the one thing that I always caveat the crowd based on what you see at halftime. When the crowd leaves at halftime and doesn't come back, that just bugs me to tears, because
me too.
If you go to good football programs all over the country, those people stay till the very end. You might see people trickle out, that kind of thing, when a team's getting their butt handed to them or that kind of thing. But it's rare. I mean, the good programs all over the country, those fans stay till the end and they watch their football team. And honestly, that's what Indiana needs to do. That's the next step our crowd or our fan base has to understand, because it affects everything. It affects recruiting, especially. When fans don't show up, or when they show up and then they leave early, those kids that are there watching the football game from other programs and have watched other programs and how they do things, it tells you that football is not quite at that level of importance at this school as it might be at some other school, and it factors into their thinking process. So it's really important. Fans are as important as anything else in regard to a good football program.
Yeah, it's exactly. Especially you talk about the transfers. You got guys that are coming in from A&M, from Auburn, from those types of schools who are accustomed to that. So
Right.
yeah, hopefully they can help bring that. Maybe talk. That's who they should have talking to the students, or these transfers coming in from these SEC schools. But how about the performance of Stephen Carr? I think he had a really, really good performance the other night. I think we got to see what is the potential there for him. He had some breakaway runs, and we thought that he had that kind of ability, and he did. He had several breakaway runs, almost 100 yards in the first half the other night. He got over the century mark, but it's one of the best performances by a running back for Indiana that I've seen in a minute, to be honest with you.
Well, he is really good. I mean, I like what I see out of Stephen Carr. There's no question about that. He gets a lot. He breaks a lot of tackles. I mean, the offensive line still a little bit of a question mark in my mind in what they're capable of doing at this point and how well they're playing at this juncture. But Stephen Carr was really good in this ball game. He's one of those guys that sees the field and finds a hole, pops through it. He gets the tough 2 or 3 yard runs that you need. Gets the 4 or 5 yard runs that you need on first down. He's one of those backs that I think is special in that regard. The knock on him at USC a lot was because he was injured quite a bit. He hasn't looked injured in any one of these ball games. He's actually ran really well. I think he's a guy trying to prove himself in his final year of college football because he wants to play at the next level. And if he continues to play like this, he's going to.
And Don, I'll tell you, as a kid, or I shouldn't say kid, as a young man, he's a tremendous. He comes into the pressers and just as well spoken. It seems like he's been here for 4 years, not just transferred in, because he is seamlessly fit right into this program. He seems like a kid that has been here, like Dejuan Mullen. You can't tell the difference. He is a part of this program to the core.
Well, I think that tells you a little bit about what kind of person he is and what kind of character that he has. He has tried to fit in immediately. He has not come in here with an ego and thinking he's the answer to all our problems from a running back perspective. He's a guy that comes in here, gets the lay of the land, understands that he is not in that leadership role just yet, and all the kids react to him in a positive way. And now he's in that leadership role because they respect how he came in to the program and dealt with everything in the early going. And I think that's the biggest reason this kid, and he's a mature kid. He knows where he's at. He knows what he's trying to accomplish, and he's set out to do it, and he's doing it the right way.
Very much so. And it's just nice to see all these kids grow. I mentioned Dejuan Mullen. He's been here for 3 years now, and he's got the little Elvis chops going. But to see these kids growing up, it's wild. But this team is growing before our eyes. We saw them with a great game last week, and like I mentioned earlier, a big game this week is top 10 Cincinnati will come in. And I think that they're going to have to worry about Indiana's defense more than their offense right now. Indiana's offense didn't do a lot last week. It wasn't asked a lot. Like I said, Stephen Carr was good. Michael Penix looked like he's still finding his way. He looked better, obviously, but I think he's still finding his way a little bit. But he had more passes to more different receivers, spreading it out a little bit. So it looked a lot better on that side as well.
I do think that this team has progressed. You want to see a lot of improvement from game 1 to game 2. We saw that. There are still a lot of question marks, I think, to answer with this ball club, and most of them come on the offensive side of the football. The offensive line play, I think, has got to get better. The wide receiving core doesn't appear to have the explosion that we've seen maybe in years gone by. That out of some of these guys, I think DJ Matthews showed that he's capable of being that kind of guy and that kind of explosive receiver. But we haven't seen it down the field yet. We haven't seen a lot of stuff completed down the field from Michael Penix at this juncture. I just think those things are still up in the air a little bit. But there's no question that they're going to be tested like they have not been tested thus far this year from an athletic and a speed perspective. That's where Cincinnati has it over Indiana and most teams that they play. They are very athletic and they are fast and quick. And Indiana's going to be dealing with the team that not only is dealing with that aspect, this is a veteran Cincinnati football team. You look at their roster, and there's 2 deeps. And on their 2 deep, their defense, they don't have a single guy that's a sophomore or a freshman or a redshirt freshman in their 2 deep. I mean, they're all juniors and seniors. Some are graduate seniors. And it's very much the same way on the offensive side with the exception of a couple of spots. So this is a really veteran team that's won 11 games, and 9 games in the last 3 years. And 9 in the COVID-related year. They went 9-0, won their conference. Luke Fickell's done a phenomenal job with this program. Absolutely, and they're a team that they're in a Power 5 conference beginning next year. They'll be joining the Big 12. So when this game was scheduled, they were not expected to be a top 10 team. These games are scheduled so far in advance, and now it turned out to be an exceptional game on the schedule now because it gives Indiana a great opportunity to recover from the opening game against Iowa, to see that they've recovered with that. But it's going to be a test, like you said. If they lose this game and go 1-2, that's not what you want going into the Big Ten season, which is around the corner. Well, more than anything else, and I really hope that Indiana competes in this game like they're capable of competing. If they don't do that, then I think we've got a real problem on our hands because the rest of the schedule, it doesn't get any easier. I mean, Western Kentucky can put some points on a scoreboard. They're a very good offensive program. And I know Indiana's defense will get tested there, but the offense will as well. And then you got Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan.
Rutgers, Rutgers and Maryland have all gotten better. Every one of those teams have gotten better. It's nuts. There are no layups in the Big Ten.
No, exactly right. So this game is hugely important for no other reason than just to see where Indiana's at competitively. And if they can compete with the Cincinnati team and win this football game, but just be competitive more than anything else, be right there, give themselves a chance. But we understand Indiana football has struggled in games like this. When the game was on the line, it was really important. That's when Indiana sometimes has failed in the past. They've got to be able to step up and perform in this contest.
I hope and think that the confidence they got last week in that game, because the defense really just seemed, like I said, they just kept coming and didn't stop. So hopefully they can carry that over and it moves forward. I know this week the coaches show again at Southern Stone Restaurant on Wednesday night at 7 that you'll be hosting down off of Patterson and Rogers.
Yep, 7:05 on Wednesday evening. Coach will be in a much better mood than he was last week, even though he handles crowds and he handles the talk show and all those kinds of things. But when you get off microphone with him, he's not all that happy camper type guy that you see, and with all that bubbliness, he's definitely concerned about his football team, and hopefully he'll be in a better mood this week.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing you there, Don. Don Fischer joining us here this morning, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Look forward to seeing everybody out there Wednesday night. So make sure you go out there and check out Coach and Don Fischer. Don, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Good seeing you, Charlie.
Same here, Don. I appreciate it, sir.
You bet, guys. See ya.
The great Don Fischer joining us here this morning early on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Charlie Miller as well. How was your weekend, Charlie?
It was good, man. It was relaxing. I mean, again, like I say, for me, this is off season. You know, somebody who travels the country a little bit doing basketball camps when players are getting ready to go to school. Now, school's back in session. So this is when Charlie kind of evaluates what he has to get better at. You know, this is kind of my supreme time to spend more time with the family. And that's it, man. Just really enjoying life.
Well, we'll be back to talk more about that and with plenty of other guests right after this on Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios mobile as we're out at Indiana Football Complex.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Reamer Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're
Yay, man, that worked out great.
Good
All right,
stuff.
little ad update. The first and last break of the show is 4 minutes now. So it's a minute longer than the rest of them because of the insert I got from Evansville. Remember, Jim?
No, that should never change.
They sent me a 2-minute spot thing to include to insert.
Okay, well they get 6 minutes total. So is it a whole 2 minute block? Is it all the same?
What do you mean?
Is it 1 2 minute? It's not 1 2 minute long commercial.
No, it's four ads, 4 30-second ads.
Okay, then you just take 4 of ours out on one of the breaks and move them someplace else.
Well, there comes a point where you eventually,
but I don't think we're at that point. We need to go over that because we're going to be adding more, but it's going to go to 4 regardless, probably.
Okay.
But
yeah, if we need to change it after today, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But just to let you know today,
because some are probably getting too many.
Well, what I was able to do is that we had a few of our breaks had PSAs just to fill time. I just removed the PSAs.
Yes, well, that's it right there. You put that 2 minute block in place of the PSAs.
Yeah, but we only had a minute's worth of PSAs, so it would have been 5 minutes if I got rid of nothing. If that makes sense. We
We only have 1 minute of PSAs
in the break that I removed it from.
Oh, there are PSAs in another break.
You know, I could check on that. There might be.
Yeah, I imagine there are. So you just take that out.
So they might end up being like 3.5 minute breaks. Or
I'm gonna
something.
move back. I about walked off the back of the steps there, Charlie.
I was going to say, you're a soldier, man. Standing up the whole 2 hours.
Oh yeah, got to do it, man.
He said in the email was that the spot break can't play during the third break because that's when I guess they already have it preset in their set of commercials to play. He doesn't want it playing twice.
Yeah, we'll go over it.
Yeah.
What was attendance? Was it about 53,000? What was the attendance?
You know what? It only holds like 52, so I would guessed it was back around
50?
38.
Okay. Look. Well, you know how they show only some sections, man. It looked like it was.
Here's
Like,
the
show that student section.
Yeah, it was like sardines over there, man.
Listen to this. 2019 versus Ohio State, 47,408 against Idaho this past weekend, 47,417.
Yeah.
So nearly identical, but that one was actually filled with Indiana fans and not Ohio State fans.
But it looked good.
It did. It'll look good. It'll look even better next week.
Yep. Now there will probably be some Cincy fans though, considering close by.
Yeah.
Close colors too, right? Well, we're more. Are we wearing more crimson?
They'll probably be more black.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bring us back in.
Help me pick out my first car and help me buy my dream home. And I know you'll continue to be there for whatever my future holds because you're my BFF, banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking.
and all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday. Charlie Miller with us as always, brought to you by the great folks at Southern Stone Restaurant. Cannot wait to get out there and have a bite this evening. Charlie, a fun weekend of football. We've got basketball around the corner, but football season in high gear, man. But your camps are done, so you get to focus on being Charlie Miller for a little bit and getting ready for what's going on next.
You know, you say something that's interesting, man. A lot of times as athletes, we don't get a chance to just be because you're always on, right? You got to think about that. You're always on. There's always something you got to say, or the camera might be in your face. And so it's like you go through periods of like, who am I? And I'm being serious. It's like, who am I? You know, it's so fun. It's so interesting. 10, 15 years later, after IU, you go somewhere. It's like, oh, you were the left-handed shooter. And I'm like, what? You know, I know your face. I'm like,
I think people would remember you a lot better than that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that's now. You're far removed from Indiana, right? The closer you are to Bloomington, the area, Midwest. But it's pretty interesting. You say that, man. You get a chance to just be. And that's, again, a reason why I enjoy player development and the path I chose, because you get a chance to see a side of life sometimes you didn't see for quite some time, because you've been chasing, this ever-ending professional career or college career in this sport that you chose, or this sport chose you. So, great question.
Rotz said that last game this past week, it was a good one for Caden Curry to see, a big-time recruit Indiana trying to land, absolutely. And I was going to mention this when we were talking about the crowd. Don was talking about the crowd because as a basketball player,
yeah,
you are not going to see the fans leave in mass exodus during a game, even a blowout. They'll stay during the end of a blowout. Now, there's going to be some, but the majority of people are going to stay at a basketball game. Why is that?
Well, you said it, right? I mean, you got to go off of, let's call it what it is. You got to go off of tradition or year-over-year consistency, right? So we know in basketball, you can go back to the 70s. There's always been a consistency of fanfare play, no matter what, from whoever you're playing with respect to the teams you may play and beat by 20 or 30 points in Assembly Hall, fans will stay. If anything, to hear Coach Knight, right? To hear him rant, go off, whatever, right? They just want to see a spectacle. I think on the football side, there's been it's a trust, right? I think we had a phenomenal year last year, and I think the consistency is growing. So I think, and that's always been a tradition. If you think about that, I can go back to my days where you show up first half at Memorial Stadium, and then second half, everyone's in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right. And for who, hey, what's the score? Oh, third quarter. Oh, we're whatever down. So I'm thinking that tradition is kind of, you hope that's broken coming, this particular Saturday when they're playing against a top 10 team like Cincinnati, where people stay because that 12th man matters.
Forrest thinks the game might be one of the most important in IU history, and Sam points out that this is the first top 20 non-conference game Indiana football has hosted in 40 years. This week since USC, number 2 USC in 1981. Whew, man. But, now they didn't win the game against Iowa, but Iowa showed they're a pretty good team. They beat a really good Iowa State team this week. Yeah. Indiana was not ready for them, and they got hit in the mouth. Their defense was fine. The offense just not there. And they, talking to Don a little bit, they didn't do a lot this week. They didn't have to, but they didn't. Stephen Carr looked really good. The passing game was okay, but Michael Penix Jr. only had 68 yards through the air. Jack Tuttle has a 76-yard touchdown pass. So he ends up coming in and on one play ends up with more passing yards than Michael Penix had in the entire game or the entire time he played. Michael's going to have to get his passing down. There were some passes, the ones he missed badly. These weren't off people's hands. They were 5 yards over their head. And so he's got to get his accuracy down, man. I mean, because if you don't have a passing game to threaten these teams, they're going to focus on Stephen Carr. This offensive line is not nearly good enough that they can rely on them. Don talked about that. They had they gave up back-to-back sacks in one sequence when Indiana was deep in their own possession. It was a bad deal. So, yeah, the offensive line is still a question mark, and that's against a team that is, like I said, they should have just been pushing around, which they did in every other phase of the game. That gives you a little pause for concern on the offensive side.
Well, again, for me, going back to the Iowa game, you look at time of possession, it's pretty even. Obviously, turnovers, I think, got Indiana in that game. But also, I got to go back to now, if you have a running back, you have a quarterback that's been out for 2 years, that's chemistry. I think chemistry might be off. And I feel in almost every sport, in every aspect, defense is always a little bit more advanced than the offensive side, unless you have like a Tom Brady back there, right? You get a Tom Brady and a Gronkowski can go to a new team and kind of you can see the old play. So I feel defense is going to have to probably carry Indiana more than anything, and offense is going to have to manage and then look to score some points to really help themselves out. And you hope that this third game that there's a settling, right? That we got beat pretty good, whether we were ready or not offensively. We got now a bounce back game against Idaho. Now we have a veteran team coming in that we can't beat ourselves. We cannot have 7 turnovers. Can't do that.
Yep, Tony says it's probably a combo of reasons, like Charlie said, not feeling it's important to stay late Saturday night. That was a big one. More traffic to deal with leaving. People who are going to Indianapolis, I understand. You have to deal with going through Martinsville and all that stuff. There are a bunch of different reasons. Tailgating out there all day long. It's only a 7:30 game they're going to have all year. So, but the history has been that this has been the history of Indiana football fans.
Yeah, and again, that's been the preconceived. That's the agenda going into the game. We're only going to stay for 2 quarters, and then you're going to be in the parking lot or whatever it might be, and it's a Saturday night game. Forget a Saturday night. You could take a Saturday morning game or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. That's always, now I can't say always, but I know for my 4 years, that was the history from 94, 98. Now you hope things have changed. And like you said, I think that'd be a great idea to get players to probably put a PSA out and say, you all need to stay because we need your support throughout those big times in third, fourth quarter.
Yep. Tony got a chance. I said, I saw Kevin Brockway up in the press box. He said he met Tony Stuckey in the parking lot earlier. So glad you got to meet him, Tony. Robert Carter is up and with us. The Truth saying good morning down in southern Indiana. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be an electric football game, man. Yes. You already have – it's sold out in advance. That is so rare to know that an Indiana game is sold out. You expect the Ohio State game to be sold out, but this is a known sellout in advance. So it's going to be a big-time crowd. It's a noon game. Wish it was a little later, but that'll make the crowd better. They're not going to be all tanked up that way. They have got to get in there.
Yes, right.
So and hopefully stay in there for the whole game because they'll have all the time they want to tailgate afterwards, especially if it's a big win. But I imagine this game is going to be one of two things. It's either going to be a close game or not well for Indiana. So if it's not, they're not going to stay. But if Indiana gets up big, I hope they stay. Indiana needs to keep the fans in the stands. It's a much better look on TV when you're playing a game like this. It's going to be on national TV against a top 10 team. So hopefully they can get them in there.
Yeah, and I'm also a corporate guy, man. I'm just happy that the school is making some money. I'm hoping that they're making some money. You know, you talking about, 12,000 students, sold out. I'm just going back off of, again, I know when athletic department wasn't doing too well financially. So I'm happy to understand if everyone's spending at least $1.50, the school's making some money. That's good stuff, right? You got the economic development around the school, hotels, restaurants. It's good to see the vibrant place back in position like Bloomington is.
Absolutely, and to these recruits that are coming in.
Yes,
they want to see the fans staying. They don't want to look up there and say, well, man, this is halftime and they're gone. But on a blowout, a lot of times they're probably understanding. But this Cincinnati game, again, it'll be a big game for recruits. And this is a big time for Indiana's fans to show this is how they are. They've got to start changing a little bit. If Indiana wants to compete, they talk about competing in the Big Ten East, that's part of it. You can't just have a better offense and a better defense and better special teams. You have to have a crowd. Because let me tell you, Michigan State's going to have a crowd. Michigan's going to have a crowd. Ohio State's going to have a crowd. Penn State's going to have a crowd. I promise you, they will have a crowd that makes it difficult. And if you want to be in that pantheon of teams, your crowd has got to be behind you as well.
Well, I tell you what, you talk about recruits. It's you look up and you see that many people, that's impressive. And I can only imagine the coaches, the players are saying, you could be a part of this history. Like, look at where we came from a couple years ago. Look at how we're changing the culture, right? Look at our cult now. Look at what we're doing, right? And you can be a part of this. So that's pretty impressive, to say the least, to me.
Mike pointing out the Irish won ugly. And they play Purdue this week, so you'll have a big game with Purdue and Indiana playing Cincinnati. That is two big regional games with these regional teams.
That's right.
So looking forward to seeing that. Hey, good to see Bill made it back with us. He's been off working too hard.
Nice.
But glad to see him back. But, yeah, it's glad to see these games. I can't wait to see Indiana play Notre Dame and those kind of teams. But looking forward to that and see how, if in fact this alliance ever comes to be between the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12. The Big 12 that we talked about, they're in the process of adding teams, Charlie. Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and who's the fourth? I'm forgetting. Can't remember who the fourth team is, but they're adding 4 teams into that league. So Indiana playing a team that's going to – they're not in the Power 5 right now, but they're going to be in the Power 5.
Right.
UCF, Central Florida,
okay,
is the other team. So you got those teams that are going to be going to the Big 12 conference. So looking forward to that. Basketball season gets closer and closer. We're not that far away from Hoosier Hysteria. Was it October 2nd? So we're just a couple of weeks away from that. And, man, it's just going to cut loose. The weather is beautiful. Fall, we're reaching that fall time in Bloomington, Charlie. It is just amazing out. The weather's great. Saturday night, the weather was spectacular. I haven't looked at the forecast for this weekend. John, you might do that for me and see what the weather's going to be like for Saturday at noon for the kickoff against Cincinnati at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. Looking forward to that. I hope it's a great one. Make sure we're not over time. I can't see as well today as normal, but and the basketball team was out. I saw several members, Charlie, of the basketball team. As a matter of fact, I think some of them were down on the field. They gave them a microphone. I think they were talking to the students, to the fans. I saw Trace Jackson, Race Thompson, Rob Finnessy. I think it was Xavier. I'm trying to think of. I saw Anthony Leo. I saw Anthony Leo. He was also out at the Bloomington South North football game on Friday. So these guys are getting out and about, which is great to see that as well. Seeing them get to mix in with the student population and be a student. They were getting to be a student. How important was that when you were in school as a basketball player to participate in the other, like football tailgating and being out there doing that away from your deal and being a student?
No, it was important. You don't realize the impact. You don't realize the impact of that. Just again, as a student athlete, just to, the people that you have classes with, whether it's a big class or a small one. And then again, it's a Saturday, right? And I saw pictures of Miller out. I saw pictures with other players. It was pretty cool to watch. Just being ordinary civilians, right? Just being themselves, hanging out. And that's really important because the same now, here it is. You're going to want that same support coming up in about a month and a half from now when you are playing against some crucial opponents. You want everybody to show up to support you on that court.
Absolutely, and it is good to have that. And I think that Indiana is getting a lot better at that. As a matter of fact, I remember I saw Shonda, the softball coach. I was walking in and saw her as well. So, yeah, it's that's the one good thing about college athletics is to seeing the people come together, the teams come together. It's a great thing to see. That's when I was in school. It's great to be a part of that. So looking forward to that. I went to the Colts game yesterday. Not good. It reminded me of Indiana's game against Iowa. They just could not do anything offensively. Man, and the Seahawks, well, they didn't have much trouble. Russell Wilson was just dropping in some dimes and finding some open spaces. And the Colts have some work to do, man. Carson Wentz didn't look that good yesterday.
Yeah. Again, to me, veteran team, Seahawks studied, repped, a lot of repetition, a lot of returning players, just chemistry. You're not going to beat that. I mean, I don't know how you beat that. You have to be on your P's and Q's to beat that. You got a guy like Russell Wilson like that. That's just not happening. They play as if they're at home on the road. They play.
Let me tell you, the noise in there, it sounded. I was like, every time they would do something, I'm like, I'd look down. I'm like, wow, where are all these Seahawk fans from? They were loud. They were loud in there yesterday. I was amazed.
They have a following. They have a tremendous following. So, that's. To me, that's just those veteran teams like that. They just know who they are, and they're going to play the same way no matter where they are.
Indiana Creekwalker says he can beat Cincinnati. He says a special – I don't have my glasses on. I can't read that. My own glasses. Yeah, I got too many glasses here I'm grabbing. It's a special this year. Not such a bad loss. Looking bad. I don't know if everyone can beat them that day. Oh, you talk about Iowa? Yeah. They are – they are good. They're good, and they were ready to start the season.
And you're home, and you're at home.
Not only are you at home, they have one of those crowds that we were just talking about that Indiana wishes they had. They had 70,000 people that did not leave, that stayed there until the end, and it was not a close game.
Yeah.
So they stayed until the end. They made it difficult for Indiana until the end, and it was difficult. It was a loud environment, and that's exactly what I was talking about. Indiana needs that kind of fandom.
You also got to probably put into consideration, man, that wave to the hospital, right? I mean, that's an emotional adrenaline.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're playing for something. Who knows what's said, or you're playing for something a little bit more bigger than a W. Right. I mean, so that's tough. You come in there, you better be on all cylinders to walk out of there with a win.
You got that right. Hey, we got plenty more coming up, man. Looking forward to getting to it. We're going to be back with that and much more right here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty. Make sure you reach out to Cheryl Sizemore. You can find her at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com if you need a home in the Indianapolis area. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a
Hey, did y'all see the video of the cat falling from the
University of Miami?
In Miami?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
I don't have it downloaded yet, but I want to get it downloaded and show it on.
There was a cat, Jim, hanging from the balcony.
You got to be kidding me.
So they had a flag. So they got a flag, and basically the cat was falling. The cat was gonna fall no matter what.
Oh my God!
And the flag caught the cat, yeah,
that's hilarious.
I'm gonna get it.
That might have been the highlight of that game too, because being from Miami, and a lot of people, University of Miami fans, it was just highly disappointed. Just at the way University of Miami played, so it was like the highlight of the game.
John, you might also grab a Tom Allen quote since we didn't have him the other day.
Yeah, I can get that.
There was one. Oh man, I had it in my head, the one I wanted to.
Was it something you asked?
No.
I'll look for it during this segment.
Yeah, and we can just let him go through a couple questions if we have to. I don't care.
Was it early?
Yeah, I don't remember. Are you seeing me okay? I mean, I know we got this shadow thing going on.
You're fine whenever you're not.
Yeah.
I can't tell because the shadow keeps changing.
Hey, stop.
The next thing is to get to using my laptop, so I'm not using my phone when we do these. And I've got the power banks for everything. I've got power for days.
That's sweet. All right, I will have the cat video will be ready, but I don't have Alan yet.
And did you see that text I sent you about that cord I'm ordering?
Yes, I did see that.
I hope that fixes it. I've got 2 of those at home, but they're not TRRRS. They're TRS. I think that's the difference. I think once I get that, I'll be able to plug directly into the sound at these pressers.
All right. Charlie, I've got the cat video if you want to introduce it at some point. We got 10 seconds coming back, though.
Honda Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us. All new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
I don't know where it's going.
This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family Restaurant. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday, as John said, coming to you from the Indiana Football Complex, as today is the presser day. We'll meet with Tom Allen and the coordinators. Michael Penix is usually here as well. We'll see who else they have. So we'll have that for you later on as we go. Ross says that Indiana opens up as a 3-point underdog at home. That's probably based off a lot of Iowa. But we'll see how that goes. Alan says good afternoon. Hello to Charlie, to myself and John.
Good
Alan,
morning.
how are you doing, buddy? How are you doing, brother? Ross says the cat got some claws into the gray one, and that he's talking about the cat video at Miami.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see that. I didn't see that. You guys saw that, so John's pulling that up. Just let me know when you have that, John, and we'll. Oh, you're already ready.
We're good to go if you're ready.
Bust her out. Let's see the famous cat video. The famous cat video. You've got to tell me that he's got to become a mascot, a Miami mascot.
Yeah, I think it became a fan favorite. Right after that fall, you can imagine. Again, I don't think that game the game was okay. Again, being from Miami, I always see on the comments from a lot of fans, just kind of disappointed in the way they were playing football, irrelevant. But that was like the highlight of the actual game, right? This cat being caught by this flag and then becoming the fan favorite, obviously.
For those of you that are just listening and you can't see it on YouTube, but we were watching a video from the Miami football game over the weekend, University of Miami, where a cat somehow, first of all, was in the stadium. Secondly, was up on an upper level deck. And thirdly, was hanging from a banner or a flag above the deck below with one paw, and finally he ends up falling. But I'm assuming someone caught him because the crowd went crazy.
Yeah, flag. Actually, they had a flag down there, right? So
they had a flag to catch him?
They had a flag to catch him.
Oh, the old fireman style.
Yeah, so luckily they had something to brace the fall, right?
Dejuan Jones must have been there taking care of him.
Right, I saw that. He's a firefighter, right? I saw that. Yeah, so they had something to catch him, so that was pretty cool. So at least took away the brunt fall. So
Indiana bass singer says the crowd staying is a building process. That is right. And Indiana has not had anything to build off of. We'll give you that. So it is a process. Tim points out that Jack Tuttle has a better quarterback rating than Michael Penix does right now. But again, that's based off of 2 of 4. He threw 4 passes. He completed 2 of them. 1 goes for 76 yards. You're going to have a pretty damn good rating with that, with those numbers. But it will become a question after this game if the offense does not start doing something.
Right.
You can't rely on Stephen Carr if the passing game is not opened up, because they're going to just start keying on him. And so they're going to have to – Michael Penix is going to have to show even more improvement this week. Not just him. The receivers, this offensive line. The entire offense has got to improve. And it's got to do it this week because they're playing a very, very tough opponent. Yeah, we'll see if they can get that done. But if not, I don't know how far you have to go before the question of quarterbacks comes up. And that is a conversation I would have never imagined having this season. I'm going to be honest with you. I just didn't expect that. But I was just expecting Michael Penix to come back healthy. I was not thinking about the mental aspect of it. I knew he was healthy physically, so I'm like, he'll be good to go. But I did not put into consideration nearly enough the mental aspect, which is probably just as hard, if not harder, than the physical aspect.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. 2 years out, and then not a lot of reps, not a lot of contact, right? So even in practice, can't be touched. Now the game's a whole nother ball game. You can look at Tuttle. And really, he's coming to the game to me with no pressure. I'm not expecting to start. I'm gonna come in and get a couple reps. He's loose. I think that's all you can think about. The first pass, 76 yards. Completion. Yeah, he has no pressure on his mind. He has no pressure on his mind.
But it's easy to come into a game where you're substantially leading and there is no pressure either. There was none. So let's make it fair there. But they're going to have to show improvement this week. I mean, Don Fischer said you want to see maximum improvement between weeks 1 and 2. I agree with that, but I think that 2 and 3 are almost just as important because, man, you've got to show continued growth. Yep. You've learned week 1, you learned what you really need to work on. Week 2, what did you do? Did you do it? Bam. Week 3 it's time to put up or shut up, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel this is no matter what, Don said it best. Can we compete for 4 quarters? Can we compete for every possession? And I think if we do that, that'll help tremendously.
Absolutely. That's part of that. Helps in so many things. It helps with the crowd.
Right.
It helps with the mental aspect of the game of many of the players. I mean, that probably helps with Michael Penix. I mean, because he's struggling. I shouldn't say struggling, but it appears that he's struggling a little bit. And that any bit of confidence, no matter where it comes from, is useful. I don't care how you draw that in. However you can draw some confidence in, draw it in.
That's right. That's right. Well, and again, you get a veteran running back like we have, and you could hope that, again, if he's around 2-3 yards a carry, 4 or 5 yards here, there, that puts off that pressure where you may not have to throw the ball down the field as much, right? But if you put Cincinnati comes in and put a box in place defensively, now you're forced to throw. Now you hope that, again, you have enough reps and enough film study to understand what those pockets and those gaps going to be to make the right plays.
Yeah, Ross points out that Zach Carpenter got a better push at center when he came in, and he did come in as a replacement on the O-line. He says the O-line's got to get gel quickly. That's true. Shimmatori 66 says in the Ole Miss game, Buck Sewer commented that the receivers couldn't get separation. Seems like that has not improved. Add in poor O-line play, and that's a bad recipe versus the Bearcats. It is. That's what we're talking. They've got to improve. The receivers, another thing. Don mentioned that. Haven't seen that explosiveness. They're missing some of these guys. You've got Ty Freifogel, but everybody's going to be focusing on Ty Freifogel. He's an All-American. He is the guy. So DJ Hughes and these other guys are going to have to step up, but Michael Penix has got to find them as well. So then the O-line has got to give him the time to protect, to be able to find those and go through his reads to get to these guys. So it's all a progression of things. The O-line has got to give him protection to go through his reads to get to these receivers. So that's what makes football so difficult. You've got 11 guys on the field that all have to do their job at the same time for things to work. So
you know what? Speaking of 11 guys, we need to suit up Coach Allen. Man, you see that catch he caught? I mean, he took it right out of number 13's hand. I mean, Coach Carr
spiked it.
I mean, he was, that was like in cue. I know he was pissed off. On that pass, you could tell.
Well, he spiked it afterwards too. Do you see it?
John, we need to have that. John, I want to see that one because, I mean, he caught it in stride. He was still in coach mode. He was upset. I'm more so it's probably a wrong route. Why did he throw it over here? I mean, but it was. You know what? I love his interaction with the players, right? I mean, to play for somebody like that, who cares score, his reaction to the players around him, the way he responded, he received those guys. Like, that's a big thing for me. If I'm a recruit watching that, like, I want to play for a guy like that.
He's the ultimate player's coach.
Yeah.
I mean, if that phrase has ever been invented for somebody, it's Tom Allen. He is a player's coach.
That's right.
And to develop his style the way he has and never have been a head coach before other than high school, I'm amazed that he's able to do what he's been able to, and I've said this 1,000 times, but to do it at this level, that's amazing because when you get to this level and you have guys who are this talented, sometimes you can't get, I hate to use the word hokey because it's not hokey, but things that appear hokey to some people or to those guys, you can't get through to them. Man, there is not a player on this team that is not bought in to what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it, and all on the same page. Now, they've got to all come together and do that on the field, but there's not problems in the locker room. There's not problems on the practice field. You don't have those issues. So that is a benefit, and it's a lot easier to get to where you're trying to get to when you don't have those issues. I mean, in basketball, you have the same thing. Man, you could have – that could be just between two guys that could cause a major issue.
Yeah, you don't just, I mean, again, seemingly I'm not there. I can only take what you're telling me from an account standpoint, but you don't have the ego-driven, me people. It seems like it's a we thing. There's a commitment to excellence, to the process daily. And you said again, when you buy in at a high level, now you don't have to manage emotions either because all the emotions go towards getting better and improvement. And that is impressive. Now you got your own teams kind of managing your teammates. That's a whole nother world. That's an ease on the coaches. And think about football, right? 70 plus players. You almost can say 6+ head coaches, right? Because you got, the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, and you have the defensive back coach. So everyone has to be on one cylinder when they come there for those game plans. So that's pretty impressive to say that you can basically, have a lot of trust and belief going on. And that's what you really see the most from me.
Let's, if you're on YouTube, let's see Tom Allen's Saturday's ball spike, catch and ball spike.
Go ahead, right here. Tom Allen has a catch and a spike.
We didn't get to see the catch, but it's all the spike and the follow through.
But then again, for me, the reaction afterwards to it from his players, and they were up, but like to receive it, I'm just watching that, like the way he received it, whether it was an errant play or not. Okay, next play, right? Okay, next play, right? And it was really good for me to see because that's just, you could tell he just has a lot of trust in those guys, and those guys trust him.
Cemetery 66 says if Indiana can establish the running game, everything will improve exponentially. Well, they did that the other day, and I wouldn't say that everything improved in that game. I didn't. The passing game was just not really there. Like I said, Michael Penix throws for 68 yards. Of course, he didn't. Again, the time of possession was nearly identical because the defense spent most of the time on the field for Indiana. They kept taking the ball away, scoring, and having to go back out and play again.
Right.
So the offense didn't have the ball a lot, but they had enough opportunities that I was a little disappointed in, other than Stephen Carr. Like I said, it's a little – they need improvement. They're probably not trying to show a lot before the Cincinnati game as well, especially against an Idaho team. You don't need to show much. I was thinking about that when Don was talking about going deep.
Exactly.
I was like, well, they do need to, but they didn't take many shots in that game. I don't know if they're saving that for Cincinnati, but it's definitely they're going to have to open up that offense, but it has to be open. It has to be that he has the time to throw that ball, because you've got to have the protection to throw that deep ball. You've got to drop back and be able to have the time and throw that ball. So, again, offensive line weighs into that. We'll see.
Yeah, you hope that you were really banking on, and I didn't think about that, really running the ball, because you probably had an advantage to do that, and then again getting Cincinnati to kind of probably understand that game too. Okay, well, they're showing us something they may not be able to do. They're not going to do a lot of coming up when we play them. That's true.
I want to see. I didn't get to see any other college games this weekend. Did you get to watch any? Did anyone get to watch any? I didn't get to see any scores. I'm looking for some scores now as we're doing this, but it's hard for me to get over to that because
FCS Jacksonville State upset Florida State at home.
Now, see, that blows my mind. That's the week after they could have beaten Notre Dame at home. Florida State nearly beats Notre Dame. Notre Dame now wins ugly this week. Now, you talk about a team there. They play Purdue this Saturday. That would give Purdue a gigantic win that they haven't had since beating Ohio State. That would be a gigantic boost to them and what they're trying to accomplish and get them on a roll, a team that Indiana will finish the season at their place. So it's just all this stuff going into the season, man. Football is different than basketball in the way you only have 12 games.
That's right, week to
and
week.
And it is like they're like, man, they're so precious. They're so precious, and especially once you get into conference play, they become even more precious because one loss is like 4 losses in basketball.
That's right.
And so it's like, wow, you've got to recover quick. Back-to-back losses is difficult, but momentum, and it's harder to get momentum back. In basketball, you play in every 3 or 4 days. You can get back in and get the momentum back. You've got to wait another week, and if you lose 2 in a row, man, you've got all that weighing on you, which they didn't. But it's just so it's such a different mental game, Charlie, as far as the waiting and the one game thing and being able to talk about like in basketball, you can get right back out there 2 days later and get into a game and forget about all that.
Well, and it's kind of going back to, I remember Allen Iverson when he first came into the NBA and they lost the game. And he was like asking him, paraphrasing, how do you feel about the loss? He was like, well, the good thing about the NBA, we got a game tomorrow. So we have a game tomorrow. So it's not, and again, not much we could do about this other than, look at cleaning some things up, right? Paraphrasing what he said. But yeah, in football, that is the equivalent to about 4 or 5 losses in a row. And you got that time in between, the thought process in between. Can you stay focused on the task at hand, your assignments, getting better at practice, getting your reps, knowing that it's Tuesday, you don't play until Saturday, right? So can you stay focused long enough to mend what you got to get better at? And then what you've done well, can you strengthen it and continue to do it? That's a lot of time in between.
John, if you've got the Tom Allen clip, do you have that yet?
Which one?
The Tom Allen clip, voice clip, sound clip?
So we got a couple minutes to break, but if you want to come back to it later, I do have them uploading right now. They're almost there.
Yeah, we'll do that when we come back. Look forward to hearing from what Tom had to say in the post-game presser. He was happy, as you can imagine, and knows that they've got some things to continue to work on. But you've got to be happy with the performance. And he was happy with the students, talked about the students. He wanted to go over there and thank them after the game, but most of them were gone. And he said, I understand at that point. And I do too at that point. I mean, you're not going to get the students to stay till after the game's over. Especially a game that gets over at what time to get over 11:30. I didn't get home until after 1. So yeah, that's a late night. That's probably the only late night that you'll have at Indiana this year, I would imagine. Most of the rest of the season games will probably be at either noon or 3:30 with the networks, since we're about to get into conference play. The Western Kentucky game is on CBS, so that's in the afternoon, and then everything else would be either Big Ten or ABC or ESPN, but in the afternoon. Yeah, nighttime games are fun, but that's a late finish, Charlie.
Yeah, Kirkwood was calling, man. That's all it was. Kirkwood was.
It was.
Yeah. I'm gonna show this. Bluebirds and Buffalo. They were calling. That's all. It was another game going on down the street. You know, and they had to be there by 10:30, 11 o'clock. So
different game.
Oh, different game.
Hey, you listen to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Charlie Miller's with us. Jim Coyle will be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda.
Oh, yeah. Ohio State.
Yeah, how did I not mention Ohio State losing to Oregon, but I mentioned Florida State getting upset by Jacksonville State?
Hey, Charlie, at least the students now all went to the games this time.
Well, that's true.
Instead of just straight to Kirkwood from the tailgate.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about beforehand, and how Tom Allen wanted to thank the students after the game. But
that's good. I mean, I chide the hardcore IU football fans, but
I was genuinely surprised. I was going hard at him on the podcast last week about how after the Iowa loss, I was like, I'm expecting a sleepy crowd, and they proved me wrong.
It's good. The football, I mean, those guys deserve it. They just looked so bad. I mean, if they'd have played well against Iowa and still lost, it would have been. One
silver lining is that Iowa looks legit after what they did to Iowa State. They made Penix throw 3 interceptions. They made Brock interception.
Yeah. Coach, how you doing?
Hello, boys.
Hey, Jim, I'll remind you again later, but we got to be out 4 minutes early because we started 4 minutes early with Don. We didn't do that last week, and I forgot.
Well, that's actually perfect because that lets me out of here, man. Perfect. That gets me into the press conference.
Sweet.
Awesome.
In the presser clips I've got him talking about his defensive performance and special teams performance. Those are the two I have.
All right. We'll probably hold those for a while.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to let you know I had them up now.
Oh, Reamer, what'd you do this weekend? Anything?
No, this was remember Friday? This was the last rest and relaxation weekend. Didn't do really much of anything.
Did you pay? Let's see. I know the guys are. It was the last fall evaluation period. Is that over?
No, it goes until it goes all the way through the school season.
It does.
Basically, yeah. Outside of a dead period for signing. It
so
changes.
They can go watch, so they can go watch players anytime they want.
Basically now, yeah. I think there's still a certain number that they can only see. There's a certain number of days they have through the entire period, but it's not restricted via the calendar.
All right, we're coming back in.
In Carmel and 6th Street in Indy have a long list of beers and all of the right ones to choose with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this beautiful Monday. Chamber of Commerce weather, man. I'm out at the football complex at Indiana University. Today is the presser day. We talked to Tom Allen here in a little bit, the coordinators, Michael Penix, and all the crew, as they will be previewing the Cincinnati game, a big top 10 opponent coming in. Jim Reamer's joining us now. Charlie Miller's with us. Jim, how are you?
Good. It was a good weekend, and the last one without basketball until August.
Wow.
Well, maybe for you, it'll be the last one for me until next April. So I was thinking that. I was like, let's see. I got 6 days a week from now until April.
No, this is next August.
Oh, next August.
Yeah, gotcha. Basically, the start of 11 months of I mean, there might be a weekend where I pluck one away and get to a Colts game, but other than that, this will be 11. Yeah, this will be the last. This past weekend was the last one without any basketball for 11 months.
I went to the Colts game yesterday.
Good, yeah.
Courtesy of Mike Ross, thank you very much. But not a good day for Carson Wentz and the Colts offense. They didn't look very good at all.
I thought Wentz looked good. He just didn't have any offensive line support, especially in the second half when they definitely had to throw a little bit more. I was pleased with Wentz. I was pleased with how sharp he looked and how he was willing to get out of the pocket and make plays. And you can't constantly be on the run like that. I mean, it's probably not a whole lot unlike what Penix went through against Iowa that first week. You just can't be under fire. I mean, I saw a friend of mine tweeted that Wentz probably feels like he's back in Philadelphia again. But
yeah, I saw that.
So I liked him. It's obviously not a complete job, and they'll get more continuity. But the right side of that line was terrible.
Ohio State. Speaking of the Big Ten East, Charlie, the Buckeyes, man, they lose to Oregon at home. And this is not the first time I've seen Ohio State lose at home to Oklahoma a couple years ago. They have a tendency to lose these big time games. I mean, they schedule them. You got to give them credit for that, but they could be ripe for the picking for someone in the East Division of the Big Ten. Indiana's got to get its offense on track. Man, it's a great opportunity when you finally get the giant. You got him wobbling a little bit, but you got to be able to sling everything you got at him. So we'll see what that happens. That's a few weeks into the season now, but Indiana's got to get the offense. We've talked about that, Jim, earlier. Offensively for Indiana football, their offensive line. That's kind of where their problems are starting right now. Is offensive line woes.
The Ohio State Oregon just the assessment there was Oregon is just faster.
Yeah, but that's so hard for me to believe though, because you've got a team in Ohio State that is full of nothing but 5-star guys who are exceptional athletes. I just find it's hard to believe that hardly any team is really that much faster than an Ohio State or a Clemson or any of those guys. You just have so much talent. That would be mind-boggling.
Some of it might be scheme too, and the type of personnel teams play. We were watching what the Bears and the Rams last night, and I couldn't catch all the game audio because I wasn't home watching it. But they talked an awful lot about how it looked like the Rams basically played one linebacker the entire second, third, and fourth quarters. Basically, that was their front line. Their defensive line was enough to contain the run of the Bears, who may or may not have that great of a running game. I don't know yet. I don't know much about their personnel, but just Collinsworth just kept remarking on how defenses have been able to change and scheme more toward safeties that play that play linebackers now, and just playing more DBs, and that's a difference of speed between traditional what I would view as traditional personnel. So.
I would also attribute that to me. I mean, just my outlook, Jim, Reamer, is everyone's becoming a little bit more athletic and getting more diverse on again because of the 7-on-7 play. That's just kind of my thing. It's like I think 7-on-7 play with skilled players. Now those guys are becoming more diverse. They can play safety. They can play cornerback. They can play linebacker. They're just as big, right? And that's fast. So I attribute that to that as well. That's just my outlook on that.
I wonder how much of that has also been dictated by the change in how they're allowed to tackle.
True.
You can't just go up there and pancake people anymore. True. And you've got to get different angles. And when you're talking about angles, you're talking about just sheer speed.
Right.
Instead of just relying heavily on
hitting
size.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. I can't say I disagree with you, Forrest. It's definitely early, but it looks as though Penn State and Iowa are the best teams in the Big Ten. I may agree with you there. Iowa definitely in the West. They're going to win the West, I think, without question. Penn State could be the team that knocks off Ohio State. We'll see. They've been trying to knock on that door for a couple of years. Michigan looks better. Wouldn't that be incredible to see Jim Harbaugh finally get a win over Ohio State? Man, that would be gigantic for them.
I've got a friend of mine who's a huge Michigan fan, and I do all I can to make fun of him for how Michigan can't beat Ohio State. So I don't know if I'm ready to give that up yet.
Shimatory 66 says he just read on Pro Football Focus that they rated IU's O-line as number 126 last season with a 6-1 record. What kind of O-line play was amazing. Ross, he's stuck living in the Bengals TV region, so he missed the Colts game. Fortunately, crazy can't even listen to a radio stream nowadays. Yep. Oh well, it is. It's but I'm sure that there's ways you can get it. But yeah, everything's every which way now. But Bengals fans, Colts fans, used to be before the Colts came in. Yeah, Indiana would have to find a team to be a fan of before the Colts came along back in the '84. But Indianapolis has certainly adopted them. They didn't have the roof open yesterday, man. I don't know why. Would have been a great day for that.
Too hot?
It's too hot.
Man,
I guess.
Suburbanites don't like humidity, man. I don't know.
Well, I was there last Wednesday night, and Axl Rose was knocking on Irsay's roof. Not his door, but they should have opened it up for that. That would have been good. Tim says maybe Penix will be up to speed by the time they play Ohio State, so maybe that they win that game this year. Well, they've got to get up to speed before then because they've got
they've got to speed next week for this game coming up.
Oh, we lost Jim. Just me and you.
Hey, it's happened before. It's happened before.
Let's take over. Let's go.
We just roll.
Yeah, I'm back. I took myself out of there. But they've got to get up to speed before then because they've got too many important games that they have to play. And I'll tell you one that's it's not being overlooked, but that Western Kentucky game on the road it's a game that they should handle, but that's not going to be Idaho. They're better than Idaho. They're way better than Idaho. And it's on the road. That's just one of those icky little games. I don't think it should be a problem because I think Indiana's defense is so good that I don't think that a game like that is really going to be a problem. But you can't ignore games like that, Charlie. A game that is not supposed to be, this is a non-con game. You normally don't see Power 5 teams going to play a game like this. It's you pay these guys to come in and that's it. But they ended up doing some contract like a 3-for-1 or something like that where they had to go back and play this. And this is the time where they have to go back and play. So now your non-con schedule is you have Cincinnati at home, and you've got to go to Western Kentucky as 2 of your 3 non-conference games. So those are supposed to be the 3 easiest games you have. We had Idaho the other night. That's one, but these next 2 non-con games, not going to be easy.
Well, I tell you what, you can attribute that to with respect to what I'm saying to like playing. I remember back in my day, you're playing against a really, really good Butler team, and you can't think, okay, this is an easy win. Like if you don't play as well as you're capable of playing, you can lose. I mean, so I'm not no disrespect to Butler, but I could imagine a Western Kentucky to an Indiana, but we got to take care of business against Cincinnati. Now you're going on the road to play a tough team. You're going to have to really play. Again, all phases have to probably play extremely well to win those games on the road.
Yeah, S. Ellison points out that Ohio State did lose to a good team. It's not like they lost to Idaho. But Michigan's looking better. So it's something worth talking about. It would certainly be fun. I got to be honest with you. I don't know that I wouldn't mind seeing it happen because I don't have any – I don't care about Ohio State or Michigan, either one. So I think it would aggravate Ohio State way more, I think, if so. David Cattle says Tuttle looks sound and serviceable at quarterback. Jim, before you joined us, that's something I was talking about. I'm like – and part of this is the offensive line, but I don't know how long they are going to go before the question at quarterback comes up. Because,
well, it comes up.
I'm talking about coming. I'm talking about the changing, the possibility of changing, and I never thought that conversation would be had.
I just don't think. Look, I'm not a big football guy. I mean, I understand the game. I definitely understand strategy of the game. I think I can watch a quarterback and sort of tell when a guy has pretty decent mechanics, and sometimes it looks like Penix is. I don't know that I'm not in love with his mechanics. I don't claim to even be remotely an expert. It just seems like he's pushing it, and it just seems like he's always struggling to be accurate at all levels, at all distances. And when you also consider the fact, for whatever reason, it could be legitimate neck up issues. He's not a willing runner, and it just seems like such a waste of athleticism that you can't incorporate some sort of moving pocket or some sort of opportunity for him to get upfield with the ball in his hands, especially with all the Rippo stuff they do. Well, I mean, every team does a lot of Rippo stuff at the college level, but it just seems like there's opportunities for them to steal yards and put the defense on edge and make them a little bit honest, instead of it's just everything is definitely going to be, a handoff or a pass and never him on the run. When you're not accurate and you won't run, it's tough to be a quarterback at that level.
Yeah, there was a play, I think it was in the second half, where he gets flushed out of the pocket to to the left or far away from me, and he runs and slides, which I was like, wow, he did run and slide on that play. So that's the first time I've seen him do that. So we'll see if he gets more confidence from that. I may ask him, if I get the opportunity, I may ask him that question today.
Am I wrong on his athleticism? I mean,
he's not using it. Yeah, I agree with you.
He's athletic. He's super. That was one of his big deals coming in, right? Is that he was maybe not an elite level athlete, but certainly. Oh yeah, Forrest Gray. He says Penix throws off his back leg quite often. He absolutely does that, and I don't understand why if that's the case, why that is not fixed or changed. Well, some of it is, especially Iowa. I give him a little bit of defense here in Iowa. The Iowa game, he was constantly had somebody in front of him when he was throwing the ball.
Well, that's true.
In Iowa, and even to the extent of backpedaling. But I'm not in love with his mechanics, and I don't again claim to be an expert or anything on it, but he just, when you're as inaccurate as he is, that's a dead giveaway that your just mechanics aren't repeatable. You're just kind of out there. You're more of a thrower than you are a quarterback. And it's too bad because he's got a cannon for an arm. And
laser.
And I just wish he would run more. I know he's had 2 injuries to his knees. I know that can mess with a guy or mess with anybody. But at the same time, I don't think playing the way he's playing is going to keep him from getting injured. I don't think he's any less susceptible to getting injured. It just seems like he would be better served if he was more willing to just tuck it and run and in an organized way, so they can get some get some offense going and be a little bit more efficient.
You can talk to the athlete of the mental aspect of getting past that fear of, well, if I do this, I mean, I could get hurt and end my season. You can't play that way, but that's a legitimate fear. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's had 3 season-ending injuries.
Yeah, well, you also probably put in consideration that he may be trying to establish himself as a high-level quarterback, right? So, I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know, but you got it, like you said, Jim, Reamer, it might be a neck-up thing. I rather, throw the ball out of bounds or, slide versus really showing that versatility. Or is it injury, or is it I want to show that I am a passer and not just a thrower? I think and again, with respect to what you said, Jim, remember, that's a difference, right? It's a big difference.
I would be cool with him throwing it out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I would be cool with him doing that. I mean, at least I don't know. Look, the best quarterbacks in the NFL outside of a couple now are guys that are mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could you make a point where if Indiana's offensive line was a lot better, then yeah, it makes sense for him. It makes sense for him to think of himself as a pocket quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's going to be successful.
Right.
In that, and again, as defenses get quicker, as defenses scheme different ways to blitz and different ways to pressure quarterbacks, even at times pressure quarterbacks with just 4 guys,
Right.
And not, they're 3 down linemen, and they figure out which guy they're going to send, which fourth guy they're going to send. It's different each time. You've got to be more mobile, and that was my, not to get too deep off a tangent because I see we got to go to a break here, but that was my complaint last year with the Colts with Phil Rivers was there were no secondary options with them. There was no, what happens if a play breaks down? There was nothing that the Colts could ever do. At least now with Wentz, they've got that guy. They've got a guy who can do that. Hopefully he can, make good decisions, but at least physically they have a guy who can do that. And Penix for Indiana, he should be a guy that can do that. And I just don't ever see it. And I don't see him being accurate enough to be a pocket, just a purely.
I wonder if that's something they were saving. If you think about, that's interesting to see. Were you saving those runs for this game, right? I mean,
I would have used it against Iowa, right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, just
true.
because if it's a conference game.
True. Right. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Jim was rattling off their next couple of games, and I was thinking, damn, Indiana could go 1-3 into conference play, and then it hit me. Wait, Iowa was a conference game, so
yeah.
There's their 3 non-conference. It threw me for a second there that Iowa was the first game as a conference game, and that's somewhat of a new thing with the Big Ten. But yeah, man, I would think the Iowa game. I think the Iowa game would be the game to do that.
Would be the game, right? Yeah.
Someone was complaining. I'll be quick here. Someone was complaining on Twitter about the first possession, 20 plays or whatever it was, and just trying to establish the run. And someone said if it takes them 20 plays to score a touchdown against Idaho, they're not really doing much with it. I thought, well, man, it looked like all they were doing was just trying to establish the run, and I thought they were pretty effective at getting positive yards in each play, even though they didn't really break away any big plays. But I think it paid off later in the game.
Right.
And I think at that point you are trying to, it's like you said, Charlie, they are trying to develop a mindset. And in IU's case, it looks like they definitely want to make sure that the running game is a big part of it.
It's solid. Yeah. Because you got to think there's a consistency that goes along with that, because you can be very inconsistent. I mean, now you got the O-line blocking for a pass, blocking for runs. So I think when you got a solid running back, you get him established. Now you got to start passing the ball down the field and get some completions. I think and then you get him running with some confidence. I mean, I think you got a whole nother element as far as competing.
He shifted. He changed his directions pretty good. The running back from that transferred in from USC. I really liked watching him run against Idaho, but I did not see the second half of that game. So,
all right, let's take a quick break. We got plenty more coming up. Make sure you stop by if you live in the Sellersburg area down in Southern Indiana. Stop by and see our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. See Dr. J on Indiana Avenue. That's where I go, by the way. But we'll be back with more on Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
Charlie, I like what Justin Fields looks like he's going to be eventually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't think Penix is as good as him, but that's
which he could potentially be.
That's what I didn't know who Justin Fields was when he went to Ohio State. So
Reamer, you're the only person I've heard pronounce it Penix and not Penix.
Oh, is it Penix?
I think.
I have Penix.
I didn't want to say anything.
I have Penix envy.
I'm not taking
Penix. Yeah, Penix. Yeah.
I have Penix envy. There's probably somebody's home thinking bigger idiot than what I really am. All right.
If you get the wrong person listening, they're gonna be like, "Is he saying? What is he saying?"
Yeah. Well, we're allowed to say the actual term of the anatomy. I don't know. Is this an FCA mandate or a moderated thing? No. Yeah. So it's Penix and not Penix. All right. Well, there you go. Well. Like I said, man, I understand the game. I just don't know all the players. So
there you go.
Yeah, Charlie, you brought up the 7-on-7 stuff last week, and I thought that was
valid. I just think, man, you go now. The versatility of the defensive backs, and almost like you can't say equivalent, but equivalency to a positionless basketball team where
absolutely,
you get a 6'11" guy now bringing the ball down. I mean, and he's free to kick the offense off as you get the 5'11" guy running as a rim runner, just whatever. So,
well, give you an example of what Gary Brackett, who owned all this, a lot of restaurants in Central Indiana, especially the one that I went to on a regular basis. He's certainly better shape than I am, and certainly as a player, but I'm bigger than he is. And he's, he was for a stretch there, one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL,
right.
Or certainly statistically one of the best, one of the leading tacklers. So he was, but very small. Certainly height-wise, very small. But yeah, I think the game's just getting so much. I mean, all sports are getting more athletic.
Yeah. Hey, Jim Coyle, I sent you a text message. Coach Felling is available. I don't know if you wanted to get him
today?
on. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I told him, I figure, I can give him a call. I think it might be a call, might be a phone call. I'm not sure the technology sitting around.
We might want to set this up for next week because
we'll do it next.
By the way,
done. We'll do that. Perfect.
I saw a friend of his, Odie.
33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Monday. It is a beautiful Monday. Things are always a lot prettier when you're coming off of a win. Indiana football is doing that as they knocked off Idaho 56-14. Great play by the defense, special teams, 2 special team touchdowns, first time since 1969 against Kentucky that happened. But the special teams was incredible. 2 block punts, a touchdown off of one of those, a punt return for a touchdown. I mean, it was nuts. And the defense was just, they were like a tsunami. They just didn't stop. Tom Allen had said, I think you have those clips we talked about in the post-game presser that he has told the defense he expects them to set the tone every game. That's what he needs from them every game. And right now, that's exactly right. This offense is not setting the tone. At the Iowa game, they won the coin toss and took the ball. That never happens. I mean, you always defer to the second half, especially at home. Man, he's like, give us the ball, we're going at him. And I was like, ooh, that was probably a bad sign right there. And it turned out to be an ominous sign. But John, if you've got those clips from Tom,
I thought that really good intensity in the beginning, just dominated them up front. And I expected us to. I thought we needed to. I thought we should. That's nothing. I just felt like our guys needed to play that way, and they did. And that the drive right for half was really pretty much all they had in the whole first half. But just ability to close everything, the windows off, and they've done a good job. I mean, when you watch their film, and Coach Bertier does a tremendous job moving the football. They've scored a lot of points, and they've done a good job against a lot of good people. And so I thought Coach Warren did a great job, a good plan, very very sound, and even just made some good adjustments there to be able to keep our guys, able to be in position because they're throwing a lot of quick stuff and getting the ball out fast after we got a lot of pressure on them early, and those are hard. And I'll tell you what, number 80 he's a really good. He's an All-American, and you see why. Unbelievable ball skills, and he does that every single game, and so he made some great catches tonight, so hats off to him. But just felt like that our defense played well. They made it hard to get a lot of interceptions because of the kind of balls they were throwing, and they haven't really fumbled the ball hardly at all, so we obviously got that big early sack cost fumble, which is huge. So very, very good performance by our defense, I thought.
Tom Allen talking about that defense. He's very happy with them, as he should be. They played well. Of course, that was against Idaho. He's going to need that this week, guys, as they're playing a team that has just been magical. Don Fischer said they've won 9, 10, 11 games every year for the last several years. So, of course, they're not playing in a major conference. They will be, however, soon, guys, as they're joining the Big West. That's some other news. The Big West expands. I talked earlier a little bit about that with Charlie, Jim. Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, and BYU now going into the Big 12 conference.
Yep. Saw that.
So
it's every 5 years we get a shuffle, it seems like.
Yeah. And at least these are teams that are good on both sides of the ball. I mean, Houston is got a good football and basketball program. You got Kelvin Sampson, of course, down there. Their football's been good. Cincinnati, their football program is elevated. Basketball this would probably give them opportunity to elevate again, as they've been a program that's been kind of up and down. BYU, solid. This probably helps elevate them as well. And then Central Florida, they've been begging for them. So now you have another Florida team that's going to be in a major conference. And are they going to be the next Florida team? Florida State hasn't done it. We thought that they'd come back. It looked like that maybe they were on their way last week against Notre Dame. And then this week they lose to Jacksonville State. Are you kidding me? That is unbelievable. I mean,
the way that game ended.
I think I could play for Jacksonville State when I was out of high school, and it's like crazy. But I didn't get to see the end.
Oh, the final play where it was like a 50-yard or a 40-yard? No, it was maybe 60, and they threw the ball down to about the 20-yard line, and the DB just gambled and whiffed. He was trying to hit a home run instead of just hit singles, basically, to steal a metaphor that I use often. And he gave the receiver an angle after the catch, and the guy took it and beat it, and he had to make one other guy miss, and he scored. That's how they won.
Tim says that Cincinnati had 261 passing and 130 yards on the ground, a pretty balanced attack last week. That's 391 yards. That's a pretty good output.
They only played Murray State, which is another FCS opponent.
I was going to say, if they do that against Indiana, that'd be pretty good. But I would imagine they weren't playing an Indiana-type defense next week, and they're not going to have those kind of numbers. I think this defense is going to be a serious issue. Indiana has to get a manageable offense. You've got to get an offense that is manageable, and I don't know that they're quite there yet. Well, I don't think that they are. I think the running game kind of is, but that all depends upon the offensive line, and the passing game kind of depends on that. But Tim made a comment earlier that if Penix doesn't have X number of yards by halftime, you replace him. I don't know that that's where you put it, but I think you have to look at how the play is going on this week. And in the first half, if it is not where it needs to be, I think you may have to seriously consider making a change to win the game.
You got to think that's probably a part of the coach's discussions, just as a precautionary tale. Because you don't want to go into a contest like that against a top opponent with a shaky quarterback. I mean, that you don't want that. So you got to think that might be something that they may not be proud to talk about, but it may be going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, I like the comment that Tony here makes on the chat room, which is, I don't think you base it necessarily on stats, because the only true stat that matters is the scoreboard. But I think I wonder how much of that is based on how much of their playbook are they holding back.
Right.
And again, and that may not be Penix's fault. There, I pronounced it correctly. Thank you. That may not be Penix's fault. A lot of that is the offensive line too. I mean, that's at all level. You build football teams inside out.
That's right.
And Indiana has, all these nice skill position players and a quarterback with a rocket arm. And as much as I can nitpick the things that Penix doesn't do well, he did not get protected definitely against Iowa. So.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. James doesn't think it's going to happen. It would take, I think, bad play for it to happen, but I think you've got to pay attention to it. You've definitely got to watch it, because you cannot give up. In golf, you'd say don't give up the hole. Man, you cannot give up the game. You've got to stay in there, and if it looks like it's time for a change, I know that's hard for a coach to do, because you have to look at what that would do mentally to your starter if this is not a permanent thing. So that would be a difficult situation. But Indiana has got to definitely improve on offense if they are going to compete in the Big Ten this year, without question. There's
Charlie, how much of that, something like that, basketball is not as clear in terms of playing time and role as football is. How much of that becomes the chit chat in the locker room? I mean, how much of that is our guys in the locker room worried? So does the staff then be a little bit more proactive making a change?
Well, again, that's kind of, thank you for saying that, because that's why I said you got to think behind closed doors.
Yeah.
That the conversation has already started.
I mean, isn't that the big, like that's the biggest reason why the New England Patriots cuts Cam Newton?
Right, exactly. Because again, amongst the players, I mean, just again, amongst the players, you kind of know, and again, I can use me for example. I can go back to games. I remember one game in particular. The season just started. Before the season started, I was a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Before tip-off, I got pulled by the side, Coach Knight, and it was one of those, hey, you know what? I got to get this guy going. He's an upperclassman. Just be ready to play. And I didn't care what we did that day. I'm just being real with you, because I was so into being ready to come off. I didn't give a you know what, because I'm just being real. Because I mean, and you're being selfish also because you want to play. But that's what I say. That conversation is happening, you know, and you're not a dummy. You know he's not playing that well. You know you got a quarterback who has 4 completions, and then we can look at that body of work and say that's great, but it's only 4 completions, right? Well, four attempts. Four attempts. So now, how much can you really say what he can do? But that conversation is there. That's real. That's a real conversation, Jim.
Well, and we as we as coaches, Charlie, and you as a player, you're often probably told you get what you earn. You earn what you get.
That's right. That's right.
But the underscore is coach's job is to win games.
That's right.
Especially at that level. I was having a conversation last night during the Sunday night football game between Andy Dalton and Foles for the Bears, who should be playing, and not Justin Fields. And I'm like, look, man, coaching at everything from very, very competitive high school basketball all the way up is coaches. Their job is to win games.
That's right.
Short of talking about obviously staying within, short of, you want to develop your kids, you want to develop your players, you want to make sure you're building a program, but at the same time, you keep your job because your ability to win games. And, if that makes the difference, then, you've got to make that decision even, but sometimes that decision isn't always shared by the players. And I wonder how much of that plays into it.
It's not always that easy. Tanner says that Saban wouldn't hesitate, but Saban also had Tua Tagovailoa, the guy that's at New England, and the guy you just mentioned, Justin Fields, all in succession. He had all 3 of those quarterbacks. So it's a lot easier to not hesitate when you've got those guys.
He sat one of his better players last game. I mean, I don't know if that's media driven. I mean, because sometimes I can look at Nick Saban and say, I think, he comes out and says all the right stuff, or he's pissed off, but yet, you're going to win pretty heavily. So you're able to teach a player a lesson about listening, playing better. You have that margin. Everyone does not have that margin.
And with Saban, someone cracked on Mac Jones this week. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Most of them are basketball guys who end up invariably talking about football, not unlike what I'm trying to do today. But how good someone cracked on Mac Jones, saying how good could Mac Jones really be when you look at what DJ Stroud did against Miami, and you're thinking, well, how much of that is system, how much of that is the talent around him.
Exactly.
And I think Mac Jones is going to be good. I'm not trying to say that he's not, but it's the point is it's easier for Saban. It's easier for Saban to make that decision when you're bringing those types of guys off the bench. So
Ross saw Burgess from New Powell at the game. He's one big dude. Need to reel him in, and Trevor Locke into the OL room. And then you've got Caden Curry. Those are the guys they need to land.
Burgess and Lauck, 2 very good high school basketball centers, by the way.
Yeah,
Lauk is mean.
Are they going football? But are they going football?
No, they're definitely going football. Lauk is just downright mean. I love that kid. I don't dislike Burgess. I mean, Burgess is good, but Lauk is just downright nasty. He's got a little edge to him that I kind of like. And
you love it. You gotta have those guys, man.
He just focuses on football, which has broken my heart the last couple summers. So
it's like what's the dude that went to Ohio State that was a good basketball player, way gigantic.
Dejuan Jones.
Dejuan Jones, yeah, 6'9".
He would play back. Honestly, I think he focused on basketball in high school, especially in the offseason, even though he knew. Yeah, Dejuan's a good kid. Anytime he tweets out his uniform jersey for being for sale, I retweet that because he's just a good kid. He's a funny kid. He's fun to be around.
Loved watching him play basketball. I did.
Yeah.
He was Charlie. He's an all-star football player. He plays for Ohio State. Now he's from Indiana high school kid, but he was 6'9". He was on the junior. He played for the juniors all-stars. I remember seeing a junior senior all-star game. He played for the juniors. And what can you do with this dude? He's 6'9", 300-something pounds, and strong and good footwork. It's like, man, there's not a lot you can do with that guy.
Charlie he passed the ball like Jokic.
Wow. So he's on the court.
You could run offense through him, and really because he played for Ben Davis, and they played Carmel in the state championship game, and Carmel won. And Carmel teams could do a really good job bottling him up with his back to the basket. As good as his feet are, he still just has a lot of body to move. I mean, I don't know if you know who we're talking about, but he's 6'9". He's probably at his most unfit was probably 330.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing, but that's still a good. He looks so much different now that he's been at Ohio State and they completely changed his body over. Now he probably still weighs over 300 pounds, but so smart from a basketball player perspective.
He's a great athlete.
Yeah, and you had to be as smooth as he looked on the court, but with his back to the basket, you could bottle him up. So it was really tough for them to just completely go to him.
Right.
Plus, they had Aaron Henry, who's at Michigan State.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, but yeah, that was he's fun to watch play basketball, and he's such an energetic kid and a fun-loving kid that I love watching him play. So it was.
So John, we're out at 56 today, right?
Yes, sir.
I will probably go out at 50 and let you all finish so I can get into the press conference. So I'll say my goodbye at 50, if that's all right.
That's fine, and I'll wrap it up for you.
Quick, Charlie, call Ron.
Oh, well.
We're going to have him on next week, man.
Next week we'll do that. Yeah.
I doubt he'll remember anything that happened.
Are you kidding me?
Well, he came up once and came to a practice, and afterwards he was basically like, all right, well, here's all the things you effed up. And I loved it. I learned a lot. I learned an awful lot listening to him, and Dockich are the two guys that got me in down there. So
yeah, I would love. I can't wait to have more because boy, he was so active just in practice, guys. Oh man, and just so active on the sidelines in your ear, telling you what to do, how to do it, almost like he was playing Xbox, and you were the subject at hand.
Is there anybody that besides Bob Knight that had more of a hand in recruiting more players than Ron Felling?
During that era, I don't know. I feel he was the main recruiter. Now that's in my case. I was Coach Ron Felling, and I know also for God bless him, Neil Reed and Andre Patterson. It was Coach Felling was the person.
How's Andre doing?
We hadn't talked ever since I guess you had him on the show. No, he's doing well. He's with the Cavaliers, doing some director player personnel. I mean, more so player development. So I think he's doing well.
We need to get him back on before the season starts so he gets too busy.
Yeah.
Keep hitting that cable.
Charlie, in the mid 90s, it seemed like, to me, at least visually, out on the road, like especially with AAU events, Dan was the one that was more visible from my perspective. I mean, that's not to say I'm talking about just on the being outward and all that. And then as Pat came on and Mike Davis came on, those guys were both after Dan left and Coach Knight started changing around his coaching staff. Right. You started to see more coaches, but there was just that 3 or 4 year stretch where they had two huge classes, followed up by guys like Reed and Collier and Recker, who all committed pretty quickly. I mean, everybody knew O'Neal was going. Everybody knew that. There was a definite absence from the road from Coach Knight that changed about the time he came back through. That changed a lot. He just never got a chance to coach guys like Jeffries and Boye and all those guys.
Yeah, I think that was all. I mean, just my recollection, Jim Reamer. I think that was Coach Davis.
Yeah.
Jeffries and who else you mentioned?
Well, Moye. Saw Moye.
Yeah. I think that was all.
He definitely put his time in the summers of 97 and 98. Coach Knight did. He started to change it around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of what got him Jeffries. I mean, I'm not obviously Coach Davis was a big part of that too.
Yeah.
And he would have never seen Moye if he wasn't on the road.
Right.
That's the value of people say, do college coaches really need to be out on the road during AAU, blah, blah, blah. That's the value of seeing all those players in one or two venues versus having to hop around from school to school to school. So
you say that, and I just know I just put a teaser out there. I know Coach Mike Davis learned a big lesson when he first got at Indiana being on the road. I remember the conversation yesterday.
Well, there was a time where he didn't know which court he was supposed to go to, and somebody maybe helped him.
Yeah, I know a big lesson. And I love Coach Davis's growth because he will tell you when he first started, even when he got the interim head coach job, I didn't know what I was doing.
He's the most honest guy, and I love him for that.
I love about Coach more than anything. He told the truth, and they just happened to have a good team that rallied around him and made him look good, right? But I think that was a big learning curve. I just love his vulnerability.
John, are we back?
We never left.
We never left. That's why I kept saying, take your last break.
Oh, I thought we had taken it. So we need to take one then?
You might as well now, yeah.
Let's see. Well, all right. Let's go ahead and take that last break. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
I thought we were in frickin' break.
No, I kind of felt that based upon how you asked the question, but I know we didn't take a break. And I was like, okay, we're still on. I could kind of tell.
See, I thought he was just trying to get to 50. He was I knew something was up. I just didn't.
No, I was like, damn, that's a long break, man. I'm sitting there just going, man, that seems like longer than 4 minutes.
No.
Well, as soon as you get off, we're just going to talk about basketball. So,
well, that's fine. They'll love that.
No, we're only going to have like 4 or 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna jump right off and let y'all talk.
27. Yeah.
Couple of big commitments this week, at least from a Indiana high school basketball perspective. So
commitments?
Yeah, they'll not IU guy, not anybody that's.
Oh.
Well, I mean, Connor Sejan is definitely deciding between a handful of high major schools.
Where's he go to high school?
The Central Noble. 6'5". He'll be a kid that ends up finding just enough athleticism to improve his ability to do stuff off the dribble, at least to attack closeouts. And he's just a special shooter. And he'll be a kid that could probably ends up freaking going to Wisconsin or something, torching Indiana or going to Butler. And although they're not doing the Crossroads thing, but he'll end up going somewhere where he ends up torching.
I think Indiana gets Caleb Glenn.
Yeah.
Especially if the situation doesn't improve in Louisville.
Well, how's it going to improve much? I mean, they're just.
I mean, we talked about that on Friday, right?
Yeah.
How much time till we're back?
2 minutes.
Long one.
Really?
Yeah, it's a 4. Remember, this is the 4-minute one. That's why I told you to take it. Now, if you want to just go ahead and step out, I don't care.
Well, I know, but I want to thank. I'm going to be quick.
Okay.
I'm going to thank Don and thank Jim and Charlie and you and the peeps.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do your. Yeah, that's fine. You're good. We'll fix that break situation, like we said earlier, though, so we don't have a long one compared to the other 3. Well, plus it also seems long to you right now because you thought
It's
we
the
were
break, man.
ADHD, baby. ADHD.
You've been standing up the whole time. You got to do something to keep moving. So you know, it's like I would tell my wife sometimes.
Lucky, and I don't have to go to the bathroom either. That's usually what it is.
Like, you know, when somebody's looking at you, or you know, she would say, "Oh, we got to do something in the hospital." I said, "They're staring. They're looking too hard.
Yeah.
They're looking too hard."
ADHD, baby. ADHD.
I'm surprised you stood up the whole time. That's a trooper, man. That's big time.
Yeah.
I will get to sit down when I go into this press conference, so I got that going for me.
Sounds like a nice little breeze out there too.
It's nice.
Like I said, a nice little breeze.
If I would step back a little bit, it would probably be really breezy. I'm in this little deal between some walls, but you can see the IU flag.
You can hear some of it off your mic.
Yeah.
There's the flag waving.
Can't really help it.
I mean, it looks beautiful there. It looks beautiful out here, out my window too.
There's the flag's waving. That's the victory flag, by the way. That's what I should have been showing, the victory flag.
Yeah. All right, we got 15 seconds. Here we go.
Because you're my BFF. Banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking and all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Monday. It is a beautiful day. I'm out at the Indiana Football Complex, about to step into the weekly press conference with Tom Allen and the coordinators, Michael Penix and all those guys. But been a great fun day. But wanted to thank Jim Reamer and Charlie before I did, and as well as Don Fischer and John, the producer. But most importantly, thank you guys, because without you all, there's no reason for us to be here. But they're going to stay with you. I'm just going to jump off a little early so I can jump into the press conference. But, man, it's been fun, guys, and I can't wait to get back and do this again.
Thank you, Jim, as always. We appreciate you, bro.
Thanks.
Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on the radio.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jim Reamer, you said you had some recruiting news coming up for us.
Oh, there's going to be a couple of kids this week that are committing, that are not from an not from an IU perspective, but from a state of Indiana perspective. Connor Asijan is a 6'5" shooter. Both these guys are seniors. Jalen Jackson Connor's from Central Noble High School, and then Jalen Jackson is at Fort Wayne Northrop. He spent the last 3 years at Fort Wayne Carroll. Both those guys have been varsity kids their entire high school career, and Jackson's more of a mid-major, deciding between. Let's get there right quick. Jackson's deciding between schools like Ball State, IUPUI, Miami of Ohio, Milwaukee, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Wright State, and he's got, all told, looks like he's got about a dozen offers. And then I'm going to screw up Asijan's list here probably. He is deciding between, he's got 7 schools he's deciding between, Butler, Creighton, let's see, Butler, Creighton, hold on a second, Butler, Creighton, Loyola, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Purdue, Fort Wayne are the ones. So
what about one guy that Jim Coyle talked about recently before, and he may not really appear on Indiana's recruiting list at this point after what they've already gotten to commit, but right. Leland Walker was an in-state guy that showed some interest.
Well, Yeah, we talked about a lot about him on our podcast. Charlie. He is so dynamic athletically. It's just a combination of he's 5'11", and up until maybe the early portion of his junior year, questionable shooter, and that has changed. And we're looking at now where, especially in June, he was at North Central High School, which is where like Eric Gordon went.
Right.
Eric Gardner, Jason Gardner,
Uh-huh.
but Eric Gordon. Leland's much smoother shot mechanics, much more confident if you go underneath the ball screen, things like that. And he's just doesn't have a lot of high major offers, and has recently transferred from North Central to Hargrave. And there's an academic component there that is probably holding some schools back. And it's tough to get too detailed into it because we don't know specifics. But, I know there's a lot of schools that, is he big enough? Okay, well, yeah, maybe, but maybe that's an issue, but he's so athletic and he's such a smart player.
Yeah.
He really knows how to command possessions. And so size, his shot, that was probably some issues early, but then I think there's some academic issues that he's going to be able to get corrected. And I think you'll end up seeing him commit late, and he'll end up being a high major kid who will commit late. And I guess I've always wanted Indiana to go after him. I know Coach Miller wasn't interested in him, I think in large part because of his size. At least that was what was cited often. But that was also before his jump shot started to look just as extremely fluid as it does now. But yeah, John, Leland's fantastic. I love him. I wish he was still at North Central, at least selfishly, from an athletic.
I hate to cut it off with that, but we got to wrap things up. I know normally if you're listening live, we're done around 11. But on days when we have Don Fischer, we start 4 minutes early. So we got to wrap things up. Thanks again, Charlie and Jim, for joining us this morning. Obviously, thanks, Jim Coyle, for doing all the heavyweight for this show every day. He's taking care of the press conference for us now. And we'll have all that stuff up later. Also, be sure to tune into the This Week in Indiana Football podcast. Me and Dustin Schutte going to have Mitchell Page, former wide receiver from Indiana. We'll have that up later on in the evening. And so be sure to listen to that. And until then, thanks again for listening, guys, and we will see you on the radio.
Hey, John.